morning, America. It's Friday.
It's time for Mornings at 8 with Jonathan Mark on AM 1480 WLEA.
And starting off with Congressman it's Brian O'Neill, by the way. Brian O'Neill in for Jonathan today. And Jonathan is in special assignment. So we have the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call from yesterday. Reed starts on, this is kind of interesting. Reed is working on legislation with New England U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren. Here's Reed explaining about that.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. This week I wanted to highlight some work we're doing on a bipartisan basis. And you may ask the question, why am I partnering with two Democratic senators running for president? But I'm proud to partner with Elizabeth Warren and Michael Bennett, where we can find some common ground in regards to the Credit for Caring Act. What this is a tax credit that we've been advocating for, and to align Senate partners with Joni Ernst and Shelley Moore Capito as two Republicans, as well as two Democratic members in the Senate, with Linda Sanchez and I, to push the Credit for Caring Act, I think bodes well for continuing the effort to get this to the finish line and made part of the tax code. If you recall, what we're proposing is that folks that take care of their loved ones, and we see reports all the time that show expenses for caregiving for a loved one, be it an elder parent or a child or other family member, running up to anywhere of $7,000 for things like transportation costs, out-of-pocket expenses, modifications to someone's home to allow them to stay in the home as they are cared for. These type of costs, I think, should have a benefit when it comes to your taxes as a caregiver, because I think it's the right thing to do, and making sure that our tax code encourages and provides relief for those caregivers that are giving so much to their loved ones. But also, if you look at the big picture, by having a loved one cared for by a family member, the quality of life of the individual being cared for is improved. The cost to the system, quote unquote, is reduced, because most often this care is being delivered in a home setting as opposed to an institutional setting or in a hospital or a medical facility. And so I think what we're talking about here just makes sense, and I'm proud to set aside the partisan bickering and to identify folks in the Senate like Joni Ernst, Shelley Moore Capito, and Michael Bennett and Elizabeth Warren, to show America we can come together on some issues, and when we can, that is when we are the strongest. And so I thank my colleague Linda Sanchez on the Ways and Means Committee on the other side of the aisle for joining us in this effort, and we're going to do our best to see if we can't use this new partnership to get the Credit for Caring Act signed into law when the opportunity best arises. So that being said, why don't we open it up to questions?
First question came from Jamestown reporter Matt Hummel.
My question is, I'm seeing some reports out there that President Trump is expected to announce that he will be taking executive action to add a citizenship question to the next census, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that potential action.
Well, obviously we see those news reports also, and I think it's clear the president has made immigration a top priority of his. And as we deal with the census, I think the question of citizenship, as the court at the Supreme Court ruled, is authorized under the Constitution. They just have to show they being the executive branch, the rationale and the basis for that. And so, I'll defer to the president as to his action there, but I don't think it's an unreasonable request to have that information shared. If someone wants to share that information, that is what this is. It's just a question. It's not as if it's a forced requirement. It's just more information that is being collected.
Is there any way in regards to the immigration issue, is there any way that there could be, any bipartisan efforts?
Absolutely. I think if The House was given the free latitude to work its will. I think there is a heart of a compromise that could be reached where you combine border security with what they call the Dreamers, the DACA kids, and some other folks where it's not a citizenship path for them, but it's a legal status type of situation where the kids have access to citizenship, but the parents who broke the law and come here get a legal status type of qualification. I think there's contours of a deal there that could be reached in a bipartisan way. And I think that would get, if it was given an opportunity to be voted for on the floor, coupled with border security, I think you could solve this problem and move on from there in a positive way.
All righty. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Celia Clark. This is Gabe Altieri filling in for Celia.
Okay.
How you doing, Congressman?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this, the Access for Rural Communities Act that you teamed up with Congressman Brindisi on and Congresswoman Stefanik. What hospitals in your district are affected by this?
Well, it would be essentially most, if not all of them. We'll get you the exact breakdown of each one of the hospitals in the district. I know we have that list in the back office, and we'll get that. But I was glad to work with Anthony in regards to providing some relief in regards to the bureaucracy, and getting more access to rural health care is something we can all, I hope, agree is something that's needed in our area.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Larson.
Hey, good morning, Congressman.
Hey, good morning, Greg.
I was tipped off a little while ago to apparently a grassroots website. Apparently, there is a group that is trying to push for David Bellavia, who recently received the Congressional Medal of Honor, to run for Congress in Chris Collins' district, the 27th district. I was wondering what you make of that, if you were aware of it.
Obviously, we were there at the White House, and David Bellavia is obviously an American hero and well-deserving of the Congressional Medal of Honor. And there's always been reports. I know David has expressed interest in running for Congress as he was in a primary previously. And I know there's a lot of interest in that district up there, reading the public reports about at least 6 to 7 people, is my understanding, that have been put into the hat, so to speak, as candidates. But I'm going to leave that up to the people of that district to decide. I will leave it up to the folks there to make the determination as to who's running and who's in that race. And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's democracy, and that's what we'll see unfold, I believe, going forward.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
David from Tappan to Greater Olean.
Nothing right now. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Jerry? Jerry, of course, being Jerry Zaremski from the Buffalo News. Here on the Mornings at 8 show with Jonathan Mark, Brian O'Neill in and for Jonathan, and we're playing yesterday's press call with Congressman Tom Reed. Again, here's Jerry Zaremski from the Buffalo News with the next question.
Hey, Tom. How you doing?
Doing well, Jerry. How you doing?
Good, good. I wanted to ask you about the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund bill that's going to be before the House tomorrow. I have a feeling I know how you're going to vote on it, but I'd like to hear, in your words, how you're going to vote on it and why, first of all.
Well, obviously I'm very supportive of that legislation, and will be a yes in regards to getting that through the House and hopefully to the President sooner rather than later. And I was glad to help Peter King and Carolyn Maloney in regards to the Problem Solvers Caucus, organizing efforts to try to promote and support that legislation. And hats off to Peter King and to Carolyn Maloney for leading the charge in a bipartisan way to make sure that those first responders are always taken care of. We shall never forget 9/11, and most importantly, we're never going to forget the folks that responded to the call and those that suffered injuries as a result rightfully deserve for us to have their back, and that's what that legislation is all about.
Okay, now I've come across some people from the Buffalo area who actually were first responders down in New York on 9/11. I was just wondering if there had been any people in your district who'd reached out to you and said, look, I went down there then and I've had these health problems since. Have you heard of anything? I know it's kind of speculative. But
no, I have not heard any concrete individuals other than I'm aware of individuals who went to the ground zero after 9/11, but there's been no individual that I could cite that has indicated they were there and now have injuries as a result of it. But I will tell you that's the bottom line for me, though. I mean, these were people, men and women, who answered the call, responded to ground zero, did yeoman's work, heroic work in response to that horrific situation, and anyone who suffered any injury as a result of that heroic action rightfully deserves us in Congress to have our support there in perpetuity until the end.
Okay, great. Thank you much.
Yep, thanks, Jerry.
Next up, Jamestown area reporter Terry Frank.
Hey, Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I understand that Congress was invaded yesterday by some members of the Juvenile Diabetes Youth Congress.
They were.
Meet at least one of them. Tell us about your session with Ben Cornell and how that went.
Well, you know, the JDRF Children's Congress is a rich tradition here in Washington, D.C., and to have Ben, one of our constituents, Lori and Ben here representing the 23rd Congressional District is exciting. And I know, had a wonderful time. We gave a personal tour to the New York juvenile diabetes folks, and I will just tell you that the issue of diabetes, as you know, is personal to me, being the father of a type 1 diabetic in my son. But to see these children just continues to inspire me that we got to find a cure and ultimately deal with this issue, this disease once and for all. But in the meantime, to have that number of kids here on the steps of the Capitol is just awesome. And Ben Cornell couldn't represent them any better in regards to a representative being there as part of Children's Congress.
I know that they were stumping, if you will, for a 5-year extension of the special diabetes program. Any progress made in that, and where do things stand right now?
No, absolutely. You know, obviously that's our bill, working with Diana DeGette out of Colorado in a bipartisan way. Get that special diabetes program reauthorized is one of our top priorities out of the Diabetes Caucus. And I know we had some successful hearings, in my opinion, in the Senate yesterday in regards to it. And so let's stay tuned. But I'm very confident that this issue, when we got 370 plus members of Congress to sign a letter of support for the special diabetes program in the House, is work I'm very proud of, and I think puts the bill in a good position to be taken care of.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Terry.
Last but not least, Rick Miller.
Good morning, Congressman.
Hey, good morning, Rick.
Say, we keep seeing these pictures and video of people seeking asylum in behind chain link fences in buildings. A lot of them operated by private companies along the border. What are your concerns about all this? Having, I don't know if you probably haven't been down there yet, but what are your concerns about these buildings and the number of people they're packing into these rooms, and it looks very bad, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on this.
Well, that's why I was glad 2 weeks ago to be part of the effort to break the partisan extremism that was trying to tie that humanitarian aid package up into politics. And we broke that gridlock, and we got that money flowing to the border to hopefully alleviate a lot of these concerns that you raise and rightfully raise in regards to addressing that humanitarian crisis at the border. And what we need to do from here is not only give those resources there an opportunity to address it, but most importantly, fix the root cause of the problem, and that's the broken immigration system. And I'm looking forward. I will be going to the border next week in a bipartisan group that is going to be going together as the Problem Solvers Caucus. And I believe it's going to be the only bipartisan group that's been brought down there, if not the largest bipartisan group, to go tour firsthand the border situation. So I look forward to that fact-finding mission. And I will just tell you, I think there's broad bipartisan support for alleviating that humanitarian crisis, as you saw with the vote for the package. And I think at the end of the day, too, if we could resolve this on the floor of the House and be given an opportunity to vote for a compromise position, I think it would pass the House rather quickly in regards to a border security, dreamer type of solution in regards to reforms necessary on that front.
Have the Problem Solvers Caucus talked about legislation, Tom, that would address that and
So the problem
put some muscle behind it?
Yeah, so the Problem Solvers Caucus actually led the effort, in my opinion, to get that humanitarian aid flowing immediately 2 weeks ago. But last cycle, we came together after 3 months of hard work on a compromise position, kind of the outlines of which were the Grand Durban contours of a Senate proposal. And it really focused on two areas. It was the heart of border security investments in order to secure the border, not only at the southern border, but ports of entry, and having the resources necessary to take care of that issue, but at the same time take care of the children, the dreamers, and the temporary protected status, the TPS population that's here and is kind of in limbo at the present time.
Thank you. What day are you going, Congressman?
We're going down the 18th and the 19th, I believe, are the actual dates of the trip.
Where will you be going? To Texas or?
Texas, to the southern border out of Texas. And we'll get the logistics. We're going to be highlighting that as we get the final details of where we're going, when we're going, and all that.
Good. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
All right, that wraps it up.
All right, thanks. We'll look forward to talking to you next week. Bye-bye.
Well, that's that for the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment with meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Stay with us.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
Another big trade in the NBA as former league MVP guard Russell Westbrook is on the move. He has been dealt by the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Houston Rockets for veteran guard Chris Paul, 2 protected first-round picks, and the opportunity to swap 2 other first-round picks. Westbrook joins former league MVP and former teammate in Oklahoma City, James Harden, who's now in Houston. As for Chris Paul, it is expected the Thunder will be looking to trade him and that the Miami Heat is a likely destination. In baseball, the second half of the season got underway with one game, Battle of Texas, where the Rangers shut out the Astros 5-0. Texas starter Lance Lynn picked up his major league leading 12th win of the season with 7 shutout innings. He struck out 11. The Rangers are now 2.5 games out of a wild card spot in the American League as they knock off the AL West leaders. News from the NFL, where LA Chargers standout running back Melvin Gordon says he will not report to training camp and will demand a trade if the Chargers do not sign him to a new contract. He's going into the final year of a deal that'll pay him $5.6 million.
New to golf or seasoned veteran, you'll enjoy the casual, relaxed atmosphere of Vanderview Golf Course. 2 miles from downtown Alfred on Waterwells Road, Vanderview is a 9-hole executive-length golf course with a driving range on one side of the road and the course on the other. Family-friendly and fun recreation for everyone. Greens fees are one price for unlimited play, $9.50. High school students, only $5. Children 12 and under with an adult, no charge. You can play up to 18 holes or 9 holes with a cart and get the second 9 holes at no additional charge. Ladies and senior golfers who don't hit the long ball, Vanderview's got the executive length that's just right for your game. And new this year, a season pass for only $100. That's a lot of golfing fun for a very little bit of money. Vanderview Golf Course, 2 miles from downtown Alfred on Waterwells Road. Vanderview Golf Course.
From the Fox Business Network, Volkswagen will invest more than $2.5 billion in Ford's self-driving car unit, Argo AI. The Wall Street Journal says under the deal, Argo will create autonomous driving technology for VW and eventually supply systems for commercial use. VW and Ford are already working together to build commercial vans and trucks. Nike says it will build a new factory in Goodyear, Arizona, even though the state's governor is canceling a state grant of up to $1 million. Nike will still receive more than $2 million in breaks from the city of Goodyear. Governor Doug Ducey canceled the state incentives when Nike pulled a Betsy Ross-themed shoe from the market. The new factory will go ahead, and Nike is expected to create at least 500 jobs. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Ginny Cosola.
Summer is here, and Matt's got the barbecue out all ready to grill. That's why he trusts Super Polygrip, so he can enjoy his steak with full confidence. Polygrip. Sounds like there's a party going on, but something's missing. The birthday gals arrived. And thanks to Polydent, her bright smile is anything but a surprise.
Polydent. The Ryan Agencies, your local, independent insurance agencies. The Ryan Agency supports your hometown. Unlike online insurance companies, the good people at the Ryan Agency live and invest here, annually supporting many local organizations. Contact the Ryan Agencies today, your hometown supporter and source for all things insurance.
Insurance protection you can rely on. The Ryan Agency.
And we're back on Mornings at 8 with meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Rob, it's yours truly filling in for Jonathan Mark this morning. Hey, how's the weather look?
It doesn't look bad for the weekend at all, Brian. In fact, we're going to do quite well both Saturday and Sunday. High pressure is going to build into the region at just the right time, set us up for some pretty nice weather. We've got one system which is exiting the northeast this morning, still have some lingering cloudiness over parts of western New York and the southern tier, but it's starting to clear in Ontario, and I think here we'll see some breaks of sunshine develop as the day goes on. We're going to get up to about 75 to 80. Sunrise earlier this morning was at 5:45. It'll set tonight at 8:47. Now tonight, Brian, high pressure builds in. Skies become clearer. We're 60 to 65. We're partly sunny tomorrow with a high of 80 to 85. We're going to keep an eye on a cold front. It's going to bring a reinforcing shot of cool weather our way for Saturday night and into Sunday.
Yeah, if I could stop you there, Rob. There's fireworks in Arkport Saturday night. They're having the Summerfest this weekend in Arkport. How's that looking?
Well, it looks pretty good. I was just going to mention the only thing we've got to watch with this frontal system, Brian, is the potential for a shower or thunderstorm. Right now, the computer guidance is kind of suggesting that the storms remain north and west of the region, say up towards Buffalo, Niagara, and then maybe across the Rochester area, and then really don't come this far south. But it's something we'll keep an eye on as we head into the weekend. Behind that frontal boundary, cooler and drier weather drops into the region. Sunday looks absolutely gorgeous with lots of sunshine, low humidity, a high of 75 to 80, and then we'll hang on to the sunny weather into Monday, Tuesday of next week as high pressure continues to head our way. Brian, we continue to keep an eye on a very weak tropical storm Barry, which is located off the coast of Louisiana this morning. The system has not become as well organized as the Hurricane Center was thinking, nor as the computer models had suggested. It's got a lot of dry air to its north. That's affecting the development of the system, as is some wind shear. Looks like what's more or less Barry's center will work its way over the coast of Louisiana at some point over the weekend. The big problem, I think, from this system is going to be heavy rainfall. They could have 6 to 12 inches of rain along the path of the system, and that's certainly going to cause flooding, considering that Baton Rouge, Louisiana on the Mississippi has been in major flood stage since February of this year.
Now I'm seeing on Twitter that U.S. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana is saying that President Trump has approved emergency declaration ahead of time for Louisiana for disaster relief funding. Do you think that's going to be used a lot, considering that you seem to think that the talk about Barry, you didn't say it was hyped, but you're saying what now? It's not as bad as it looked like it was going to be?
Exactly, Brian. A couple of weeks ago, we started using a new version of the global forecast system. That's the main North American weather model that the National Weather Service uses, and it's had its issues. It was supposed to start back in January, and it was performing so poorly in the winter that its release was delayed literally 6 months. And now, looking at how it's been forecasting the system to develop and what's actually happened, there's been a wide disparity, and I think we're going to have to take some of this computer guidance with a grain of salt. We've already been noticing it having problems with some of the weather events we've had here in the Northeast this summer. It should be an interesting winter with this guidance doing what it's doing, but I think the big threat from the system is going to be rainfall. Disorganized tropical weather systems are always notorious heavy rain producers, and this one has the potential of putting down anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of rain over some parts of Louisiana that had 10 inches of rain earlier this week.
Hey, Rob, always great talking to you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
You got it, Brian. Have a great weekend.